Vince Gill is known as the nicest guy in country music, but he might not be so nice behind the scenes. The famous singer, who is 68 years old, is said to keep a secret list that isn't full of friends. People who know the star say that Gill has quietly named 7 acts that he can't stand. That's when I started working on a solo job because I didn't think I would be in that band for long. Each name on the list has a story of broken trust, egos hurt, and drama going on behind the scenes. Some names are longtime enemies, while others are shocking betrayals. Fans are shocked, especially by number 4, which shows a fight that no one saw coming. He is known for having a smooth voice and being kind, but Gill's secret grudges paint a very different picture. One thing is for sure, the friendliest face in Nashville might also have the best memory. Watch out, this is only just beginning. 7th, G. Brooks. Vince Gill and G. Brooks both ruled the country charts in the 1990s, but they never worked together closely. Fans of both acts were happy, but people who worked behind the scenes could feel the tension. Vince, who is known for having a laid-back attitude and a clean country sound, didn't seem to like G's sudden popularity. G brought high-energy shows, fireworks, and tours of stadiums. Things Vince never agreed with. People close to Vince think he thought it was all too much, too soon. In the early 2000s, there were rumors that G had asked Vince to sing with him on a big song, but Vince politely turned him down. Some say it wasn't about the schedule, but about what was right. One person from the record label said Vince didn't want to be a part of what he saw as the commercialization of country music. He liked substance over showmanship and was said to think that G's style was too theatrical. That refusal showed a clear difference in how they felt about music. People have talked about the difference in philosophy over the years. Vince talked about how real country was losing ground to music that was more about shows in a magazine article from 2005. Fans thought it was a sly dig at G, even though he never said his name. Around the same time, Vince made a joke at a CMA event that country music wasn't Broadway with boots. This was seen by many as an insult to Gar's showy style. People in the crowd laughed, but people in the business understood. What stands out is how different their pictures are. Gar made a name for himself with big crowds and emotional songs, but Vince stayed true to himself with his guitar playing and honest words. Vince's fans liked how real he was, while Gar's fans liked how showy it was. These differences may help explain why they never really shared the stage together. Even though they were both heroes, their paths were very different. This is made more interesting by a little-known event. In 2010, G was in the audience at a tribute concert, but Vince didn't appear at all. Because both artists were planned, it made people look twice. Later, a team member gave a hint that Vince had asked to be pulled at the last minute. It's not clear if it was personal, but it added to the long-held idea that they just didn't get along. Fans still don't understand why Vince and G never worked together. In a field where working together is common, their silence says a lot. Dolly to Carrie Underwood are just some of the people Vince has worked with, but Gar's name is never talked about. Vince stood a long way from G a lot of the time, even when they were performing as a group at award shows. Fans were aware of that space. Vince might have admired G's work but not liked the way he dressed. Not all fights are loud or seen by many people. Some are quiet and have big differences in their work. Vince seemed to think that Goo played a style of country music that he didn't like. Even though they never insulted each other, there was a real gap between them. This conflict that wasn't said told its own story in a genre that is built on stories. Kristofferson did something wrong. Vince went after them. For way too long, no one has talked about what really happened between these two famous people. The 6th person is Kris Kristofferson. They are both country music stars, but they are from very different parts of the business. An awful lot of people call Kristofferson the outlaw poet. He tells stories with his music that sound like they came straight from the heart. Getting things just right doesn't bother him much. This is almost not true of Vince Gill. He is very picky about having clean singing, perfect guitar work, and a smooth sound. The big difference between Kristofferson's rough style and Vince's smooth style made a real but quiet stress between the two. Behind closed doors, people close to both Vince and Kristofferson say Vince didn't like Kristofferson's messy style. Vince never said anything bad about Kristofferson in public. It sounds like Kristofferson wrote some of his songs quickly, without worrying about how they sound or how they are put together. Vince likes music where every note is thought out and the words are easy to understand. Vince found it hard to fully accept Kristofferson's work because of this, even though he thought Kristofferson was a great songwriter. They were polite to each other but not close. They ran into each other at events and award shows but didn't hang out or work together. Vince respected Kristofferson's contribution to country music, but he got angry when Kristofferson didn't follow the rules of the craft. The fight wasn't loud or in public. They were competing quietly, but they had very different ideas about how country music should sound and feel. A lot of people don't know this, but Vince wasn't just mad about the music style. It was also about Kristofferson's life outside of music. Kristofferson stood for being different. He didn't want to be a country star and didn't want to be part of the commercial Nashville setup. Vince wasn't a strict traditionalist, but he thought that country music should be both creative and skilled. Their rivalry grew stronger because they had different beliefs. Some people saw Kristofferson as a hero because he looked like an outlaw. They wanted country music to be about freedom and real-life struggles. Vince sings the kind of country music that is better for radio and helped the genre become more famous in the 1990s and early 2000s. Their fight is a reflection of a bigger argument in country music, staying true to tradition versus making the sound more polished to appeal to a wider audience. Not many people know this, but Vince once said in an interview that he admires the outlaw movement for pushing the limits, but he believes some of the rebels went too far by not learning the basics of how to write songs and play music well. He was clearly making fun of Kristofferson's style, even though he didn't name him. Kristofferson's style is about showing emotion and being real, while Vince's is about showing skill and control. The way they fight also shows how country music fans have changed over the years. Some people like Kristofferson's honesty and toughness, while others love Vince's smooth singing and great guitar skills. There is still this difference today. This difference is very important for the genre because younger artists tend to choose one style or try to mix the two. It's also interesting to see how both men had very different effects on other artists. Kristofferson pushed country music stars like Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings to break away from Nashville's rules. Vince helped newer stars like Brad Paisley and Keith Urban get started in the music business. These artists mixed great musicianship with a modern sound. Vince and Kristofferson didn't always agree, but they both made a big impact on country music. The fifth person is Billy Ray Cyrus. He became a huge star in country music with the mega hit Achy Breaky Heart in the early 1990s. Right away, the song was a huge hit, making Billy Ray a star. It also started a line dancing craze that spread across the country and crowded dance halls from coast to coast. Fans were dancing to his catchy song, but not everyone in the business liked it. One of them was Vince Gill. For many country music fans and artists like Vince, Achy Breaky Heart was a big change. With its deep music and story, the song didn't seem to move country music forward. It looked like it moved it backwards instead. It was catchy, but Vince thought it sounded like a trick. To make the song more popular, he thought it had to lose its meaning, which was something he had always fought against in his own work. And Vince Gill can play a lot of different instruments. He is one of the best singers in this style. He is known for his honest lyrics, heartfelt ballads, and undeniable musical skill. He has never been one to follow fads because art is more important to him than being popular. Vince didn't like how Billy Ray Cyrus looked when he came out in flashy country rock clothes with big hair. He believed Billy Ray's looks and sound were more of a marketing trick than a real country music star. During the 1990s, both artists were busy with their own projects and never worked together. That wasn't a mistake. People who knew them well say that they were never friendly or warm with each other, even though they walked the same award show stages and red carpets. Vince was polite, but he wasn't friendly. Putting on a businesslike air, he kept a noticeable distance. Behind the scenes, workers say Vince was wary of Billy Ray's pop-focused style because he valued musicians a great deal. He just didn't believe that he was as dedicated to the craft as he really was. Billy Ray, on the other hand, seemed more interested in being a popular artist than in being an artist with a lot of depth. Vince didn't agree with him from the traditional camp, and he wasn't trying to get it either. Their fight showed that there is more conflict in the world of country music than they thought. To stay true to custom while also meeting the needs of the new market. Vince wasn't just in pain from a broken heart. He didn't like this practice. A wave of artists seemed to put image, catchy hooks, and fame ahead of telling a story and being a good musician because of how popular simple repetitive tracks were. Vince was worried that this would water down the real essence of country music and make it sound more like modern pop trends instead of the honest emotion and rural authenticity that make it what it is. That worry was a real one. There were a lot of acts like Billy Ray in the years after his big break. They were flashy and had hit songs that didn't go deep. Vince believed that these artists were riding the wave that Billy Ray started. He also thought the genre was going in the wrong direction. Even Vince had to agree that Billy Ray made country music more well-known. He had friends from outside of the country scene, as well as younger people. Vince had a lot of issues with the idea of reaching new people, but he knew it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. He cared about how things were done. He was more interested in quality than in putting on a show. A lot of people were affected by Billy Ray's work, which I find interesting. His daughter Miley Cyrus would become a worldwide pop star. She made country music even more pop, especially when she was just starting out as Hannah Montana. The Cyrus family made it even harder to tell the difference between country and pop music. But Vince has never said anything straight about how Miley changed things. Vince thought that everything that happened in the genre, from Achy Breaky Heart to modern country pop mixes, was a fight. As someone who has worked their whole life to keep country music honest, seeing it become more commercialized was not only upsetting, but it hit home. That's why Vince Gill made a list of Billy Ray Cyrus that wasn't so secret. Vince Gill never said nice things about Shania Twain. The reason for her silence is more shocking than any news story she's ever written. Fourth on the list is Shania Twain. Shania Twain didn't just start making country music, she changed it. Shania, who was known as the queen of country pop, created a new, high-energy style by combining traditional country sounds with popular pop sounds. Her polished hits that worked well on the radio helped country music get known all over the world. However, her fame hurt some people, like Vince Gill, who liked things the way they were. It seemed to him that Shania's fame was not the same as the honest country music that was real. A lot of different types of music fans liked Shania's albums, especially Come All the Way Over. Her songs were good for both country and top 40 radio because they had catchy pop hooks, danceable rhythms, and sparkling music. Lots of new fans became interested in the genre. Traditional country artists, on the other hand, were upset because they thought country music was losing its authenticity. Vince Gill was one of them. Vince Gill has always done what the rules say. He became famous for writing honest lyrics, making soulful ballads, and being great at music. This is the kind of artist Vince, who believes that country music can be used to tell real, honest, and powerful tales. He can play a lot of different instruments well and has a nice voice. The goal isn't to make glitzy songs with trendy beats that go to the top of the charts. Vince believes that the music and words tell a story about truth, life, death, love, and rising above. It was a clash of cultures when Shania Twain came out with big hair, sparkly clothes, and pop-heavy hits like Man. People said things like, "I feel like a woman and that don't impress me much." Vince thought her music was too polite and too smooth, even though it was catchy and well-produced. With Shania's success, she went from being known for her dirty boots and sad songs to being known for being bright, happy, and marketable. It was never a big deal or seen by other people that Vince and Shania were having trouble. Nobody got angry and said mean things to get attention for the news. Different signs of the rift were seen instead. Vince and Shania have never really worked together. When he was giving her awards, he never talked about how great her records were or how she ruled the charts. People in the country are very close to each other, so that silence meant a lot. It wasn't rude, it had to do with ethics. Vince was proud of Shania's achievements, but he didn't like where her music was going. He thought her work showed that the genre was changing to make money instead of to improve art. He thought that country music was becoming less and less like country music as it became more shiny and bubblegum-like. Vince thought that country music shouldn't try to be like pop music, but should instead show how messy and beautiful real life is. Other artists, especially women, had a harder time after Shania joined the group. She got women into the music business and showed them they could rule the charts, lead world tours, and change the way people thought about the style. Because Vince was very traditional, he missed or didn't give enough credit to artists who went in the same direction as her in terms of pop music. This meant that female singers who weren't like everyone else had trouble getting respect in places where Vince's opinion mattered. In the business world, this made a small but clear difference. Her music helped women like Carrie Underwood, Taylor Swift, and Kelsea Ballerini become well-known. People called these women country even though they liked pop music. The same was true for artists like Patty Loveless and Lee Ann Wack. They often got more praise from journalists but less support from fans. It was even easier to see the difference between being true to your art and making money. Vince Gill and Shania Twain both had an effect on country music today. She brought a lot of new fans, excitement, and glitz, even though they were different. With love and honesty, Vince kept the genre's spirit alive. They showed two different sides of country music. What they did on their own showed how country music has changed over time, even though they never worked together. These days, country music is still somewhere between being simple and having a lot of depth. The strain that Shania and Vince caused is still there. This tension comes from a quiet rivalry between a pop country queen and a storyteller purist. It's just changed names and sounds. Jason Aldean is number 3. He is often called the face of bro country, a style of country music that includes party themes, trucks, and a laid-back vibe. Most of his songs are about having fun, drinking, and living in a small town, featuring loud guitars and catchy beats. He became very famous with this style, especially with younger people who like the lively party vibe his music creates. There is a big difference between this and what Vince Gill stands for, though. Vince thinks that country music should be about deep songwriting, lyrics that mean something, and stories that make people feel something. Vince Gill has always thought that well-written songs are important. For him, every song should have a story and be honest and have heart. He thinks that lyrics should really show how someone feels and go deep. Vince doesn't think Aldean's music meets those standards because it has simple words and themes that repeat. He thinks Aldean's style is loud and shallow, and that it's more about marketing his image and way of life than writing songs. This makes a big difference between the two singers and what country music is all about. Because of these differences, Vince Gill won't go to parties or award shows where Jason Aldean will be a big star. It's not about making a scene in public or rude comments. Vince made a choice that shows where his loyalties lie. He wants to support and promote country music that stays true to tradition and good songwriting, not just hits that get played a lot on the radio because they are catchy and sell well. This peaceful protest shows how old-fashioned country values are at odds with modern commercialized styles. With Jason Aldean's help, country music got a new, more commercial sound. He has a lot of fans and his shows are always full. A lot of people love his upbeat style and catchy party songs. But Vince thinks this change is bad for the soul of country music. Vince doesn't just use music for fun or to make money. The goal is to protect the genre's roots and the storytelling practice that makes it what it is. One interesting thing to think about this rivalry is how it shows how country music society is changing in general. Aldian's style of bro country fits with a way of life and look that sometimes mixes country and pop culture. This style sells well and brings in new listeners, but longtime fans who want depth and history may not like it. Vince Gill's decision not to be a part of that world shows how controversial it is to think about whether country music should be an art form that tells stories or a business product. Vince Gill and Jason Aldean have both made big changes in country music, even though they are different. Alden's style brought country music into mainstream pop culture by opening up new doors and artists. Vince's way of doing things keeps the roots alive and encourages musicians to focus on craft and emotional truth. Their quiet competition shows how new ideas and old traditions can clash, a story that still shapes country music today. Kanye West comes in second. Kanye West isn't a country artist, but his name comes up when people talk about music that is more about getting attention than being deep. Kanye is a symbol of a time when music was driven by ego and showmanship. He is known for making big claims, fashion shows, and acting crazy in public. His albums are experimental, but they often sound more like tools for building his brand than genuine expressions of his feelings. Vince Gill thinks that the current wave of music, in which artists make millions by worshiping themselves, goes against the very essence of why music exists. He has never said Kanye's name, but it's clear that the way he criticizes today's stars is a reference to people like him. Vince thinks that music should bring people together, not keep them in line. Kanye uses his fame to take over the news and make himself the center of attention, but Vince stays out of the spotlight. He talks from the heart, not to stir up trouble. Vince thinks that real music comes from being humble and ready to be small so that the song can be big. As Kanye does, he sees the glorification of self as a dangerous change that turns musicians into untouchable icons instead of storytellers. The fight isn't just between types of music. Values come into play. The music that Vince and Kanye make is very different from each other, but their messages couldn't be more different. Kanye stirs up trouble to sell music. Vince uses emotion to get his point across. Kanye thinks of vanity as a form of performance art. Vince thinks that narcissism is the end of being real. Their styles show a bigger cultural fight between showmanship and soul, even though they might never meet. A lot of what Vince has said about music is summed up in Kanye's style. Lots of flashy production, words that focus on personal strength, and fans who value personality over song. Vince wants people to sing songs that touch people's hearts instead of their egos. He doesn't want loud music. He wants music that pays attention. That's why artists like Kanye, who made the stage their shrine, should be careful around Vince and other artists like him. It would have been easy for Vince Gill to follow trends, try to get more power, and make headlines over the years. He could have gone faster, but he chose the quiet road instead. He wouldn't give up his beliefs to be popular. This choice may have cost him bigger radio hits or younger fans, but it earned him a lot of respect from people who really care about the roots of country music. Vince didn't try to get power. He left a legacy by being honest. His silence as the country has changed over the years speaks louder than any shout. He didn't say anything bad about Billy Ray Cyrus, Jason Aldean, or Shania Twain in public, but the fact that he wasn't at their party sent a strong message. For Vince, being there means supporting. It's not a mistake when he doesn't show up to an event or give credit. It's on purpose. Also, he is very quiet, which shows where his heart really lies in a field where it is frowned upon. There is a bigger problem going on than the deep splits in country music right now. There is a fight between flash and soul, between fame and heart, between branding and soul. Vince Gill is on one side of that divide. He chooses honor, feeling, and good songwriting over fame and money. In this way, he represents a part of the genre that is becoming less common but is still very important. He's not just following the rules, he's defending what music means. Vince Gill doesn't give advice, whine, or get into fights online. He stays true to what he knows best by writing honest songs, playing with emotion, and quietly standing up for what's right. He reminds people of what music used to be about in a world full of loud self-promotion. He's more than just an artist. He's a standard who shows how far the genre has gone off track. Travis Tritt shot back with a cold look that made everyone in the room quiet when Vince made fun of fake outlaws. Travis Tritt is number one. Both he and Vince Gill became famous in the 1990s, but they had very different sounds. Travis brought a rough, rowdy energy that made the whole thing feel odd and wild. Vince, on the other hand, kept his cool and kept his mind on the task at hand. He used a polished and classic style. How people in the music business saw them depended on how different their personalities and approaches to music were. This difference made their relationship tense before there were rumors of a fight. A very important event took place behind the scenes at a benefit show in 1997. Many people say that Vince said some random things about artists who play outlaw but can't write a song. Travis, who made his name by being an outlaw country singer, didn't like what they said. Sources say that Travis confronted Vince after hearing what was said. Even though there was no physical violence, witnesses say Travis gave Vince a look that could kill. That heated moment brought out how much their egos and morals clashed. The public didn't see much of their rivalry because their music and fans didn't often mix. Fans of Vince liked how smooth and melodic his music was and how honest his lyrics were. Travis had a lot of fans who liked his wild look and tough music. Because they broke up, they didn't see each other much on the charts or in concerts. Their lives were also so different that they probably wouldn't be able to become friends. Vince and Travis never talked about their problems in public, which is different from other famous country music feuds. There was no kiss, no public ceasefire, and no signs that things were getting better over time. Fans often wonder if the competition is still going strong. Both men kept working in their own fields, focusing on their own styles and fans. The story is built around the silence they shared. A new way to look at this fight is as a reflection of a bigger fight in 90s country music. Tradition versus defiance. Vince had the polished sound of classic country music that many people wanted to keep alive. Travis had a rougher, more daring vibe that drew in younger fans and pushed the limits. Their stress wasn't just between them. It stood for a bigger split in the genre. This battle that no one saw shaped the development of country music during that decade and left a mark on the careers of both artists. In the world of country music, Vince Gill is known for being classy, modest, and kind. So, when people hear rumors of quiet fights and grudges involving him, it comes as a surprise to many. Some say it's because Vince is so hard on himself. People know him as a hard worker who has high standards for himself and others. He often didn't get along with artists whose style was more wild or loose because he was so driven to be the best. Vince never tried to be the center of attention. While others tried to get attention, he liked letting his music speak for itself. Vince tended to back away rather than face big personalities head-on when they met with his calm, focused way of doing things. These tensions were very real behind the scenes, but they didn't make the news very often. He had high standards that made it hard for him to connect with some big-name stars who didn't follow the same rules. Vince felt strangely alone in Nashville's close-knit music scene because of this quiet battle. People admire his skill and kindness, but his need to be perfect sometimes made walls. People who know Vince well say that fans and the media don't see this side of him very often. This explains why some rivalries grew slowly over many years instead of blowing up. Figuring out this hidden part of Vince Gill's personality helps us see how complicated he really is. Vince Gill is said to keep a secret journal where he writes songs. It's not just lyrics, though. A source close to Vince says that this journal has a secret list of artists that he won't work with. Someone on the road said that Vince put a strong no next to some names. Someone who works in Nashville has seen pages with big names crossed out in pen, but the list has never been made public. This shows a side of Vince that not many people know about. It's not clear if it was a joke or a real dislike. This private list calls Vince's reputation as the nicest guy in country music into question. He doesn't seem to have any trouble drawing straight lines at age 68. He is said to not want to work with 7 artists, and some of them are shocking rivals. One name jumps out for both fans and people who work in the field. This hidden book of grudges shows how Vince's work is affected by the quiet tensions that are there, not at all like the friendly person people see. Thanks for seeing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like this video. For more great videos, click on the next one that comes up on your screen.